Well, this might be a first for me. This bowl's already been sold. That being said, there's a lot of other amazing stuff coming into ArtForOUR.org. I've got some crazy, amazing artist friends, new friends, old friends that are donating all kinds of things, paintings and jewelry and whatnot, that I'm so impressed with. A lot of stuff to buy there. Every penny we raise that comes to O.U.R.org is donated to Operation Underground Railroad, so keep it up. A few years ago, we had a big, beautiful birch tree die in our backyard, and I chopped that thing up, and it's made its way into a lot of my projects. I absolutely love the white bark. Didn't have a lot of that kind of tree growing up where I was, so I fell in love with it, and I like to work with it. The only problem with this specific bark is it comes off in sheets like it's paper, which really poses a problem. Even in epoxy, it's an issue because it sticks to the outside, but 2 millimeters in, it might slough off in a big sheet of paper, so it doesn't even stick to the epoxy. So that was a challenge throughout this project, and I knew that was going to happen. I've worked with it before. So my initial idea was to do a few inches of epoxy at the bottom of this thing, get it all to stick together, which worked really well. This thing was rock solid. And then I was going to do this flaring out flower type shape. And all along the way, you're going to see me use this CA super glue. It's super thin and it runs down into the bark. I'm trying to stabilize it, but I changed my plan about halfway through. I was going to do this wide base shape with a big flare out at the top, and then I decided I wanted to do more kind of a tulip flower shape where it's kind of narrow at the bottom, which means I'm going to lose almost all of that black epoxy. As I got going in here about halfway through, I thought, I'm going to do this differently. So you'll see me go back and put more epoxy in, and that's why. And I'm glad I did. It's a whole lot safer, a lot better outcome, and it let me get the shape I wanted. But yeah, if you work with birch wood, beware. If you're trying to save the bark and stick something to the outside of the bark, it is a hassle. I went through a ton of that glue keeping this thing together, and it worked out in the end, but it was quite the chore.
Bright stars up above me, getting tucked in by mommy. I got honey my nightlight, sure wish it would shine bright like you. Good night, Mr. Moon.
And I hate it when the clouds move in front of your beautiful face, yeah. Oh, I wish I could be with you. Good night, Mr.
Moonlight home, la da 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 da, la da 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 da. I say good night, Mr. Moon. You shine through my window, I snuggle into my pillow. I don't need the sun, I can always count on you. Good night, Mr. Moon. Light on, light da 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 da. La da 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 da. Oh, you got one of those smiles that lights up the sky for miles and miles. Although I try and try, I just can't reach up to your height. Maybe I can let her fly too. Mr. Moon, I miss you so bad. My heart is weeping and my eyes are sad. Mr. Moon, I miss miss you so bad. My heart is weeping and my eyes are sad. I say good night, Mr. Good night.
Yeah, the other reason I decided to do a bigger epoxy pour is right here you can see the bark starting to strip off. I was really hoping that wouldn't happen, but it was getting so bad I thought, man, if I don't stabilize this better, not only is this whole thing going to come apart and I won't be able to get the base that was my changed plan, but I'm going to lose my bark, and so that was the other reason we went back. The silicone mold release was a great idea. Somebody suggested. I think I mentioned I'm going to rename this channel Dan's Amateur Hour. I go in the shop and just wing it. I love making up stuff. Watch a couple of YouTube videos and see what I can do. But yeah, that silicone mold release, I amazingly saved that Home Depot bucket. You'll notice I beat the crap out of it with a rubber mallet trying to get it out. Once you start beating on it, you can see these little gaps starting to show, and eventually the whole thing fell out, which is fantastic. Hate to ruin stuff if I don't have to. I may or may not have beat the crap out of this bucket for an hour. It finally came out, though. In the end, I ended up wasting a ton of epoxy. That's absolutely for sure. But I wasn't sure how stable this was going to be. I'd worked on this kind of thing before. I've got another video out there. It's the birch wood and clear resin vase, which turned out pretty cool. More of a night light translucent vase looking thing than this one was. But I learned really quickly that because of that bark issue, you got to be really careful. So I did something kind of odd on this. I left a big band of resin right down the middle to keep it all together. And as I got down close to the level of my final final project, I stopped the lathe many times and kept using that very thin CA glue, letting it run down in there and stabilizing it. And it held together great. It's strong as a rock. You can't see it on here, but I stop and test this thing about 1,000,000 times just to make sure it didn't have any issues. But the key, I think, was to leave this big band of epoxy around the middle, keep it together, glue both sides and ends, not just to save the bark, but to keep the bark stuck to the epoxy. And in the end, that worked out really nicely. So the deal over at ArtForOUR, the way it works is if you're an artist of any kind, any medium, you name it, we'll take it. If you've made something that you want to sell to help raise money to fight child sex trafficking, there's a form on the website under Donate What You Create. And it'll ask you a bunch of questions about the project, about yourself. And you submit it, you send an email with photos of the project, and if it's in good taste and decent quality, we'll post it. Hopefully somebody will buy it. We've been selling things quite frequently lately. It's been picking up speed. I think we're about to hit about $15,000 of revenue so far, which is amazing. Anyway, if it's sold, we will contact you and tell you where to ship the item. Once item's been shipped and you've got a receipt for the actual cost of shipping, then we can reimburse you for that, or you can choose to donate that amount of the purchase to O.U.R as well. It's up to you. And once it's shipped, you let us know, and that's it. You'll have to talk to your tax specialist about what you can or cannot write off as far as a charitable donation, but it certainly qualifies at least a portion that is sold, that is the amount of money that's actually donated to Operation Underground Railroad. So we're still working out the details there, but that's how that's going to work. We've been at this since late February, and I cannot tell you how amazed I am at people's generosity. I think we just hit our 40th artist and close to 200 different donations. They're all fantastic. some of them are incredible. Some of these people are professional, well-established artists whose paintings and things go for thousands and thousands of dollars. This one guy sells his stuff for 15 to 20 grand a whack, and one of his prints alone is worth $1,000, and he donated one of those. So awesome. So if you know somebody or you do something, don't be shy. Make a donation. I have found in my own life that if I can separate out work from this kind of work, I seem to thrive. I do a lot better. I could work more, earn more money, and even donate more than I'm doing here, but I don't know. This is a good way of doing it. Your heart will expand, I promise. Just showed a quick glimpse of my workspace in my garage. I go from a sterile operating room and clinic to this, and I feel like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I lead two lives. I think if some of my patients could see what I do when I go home, they would die laughing and probably run away, but keeps me sane. It's good stuff, good therapy. I made a decision when I first started doing this that 100% of what I raised, I would go to Operation Underground Railroad. These guys are amazing. They fight child sex trafficking around the world. They just saved, I believe, their 5,000th person. And they may not be perfect in the way they do everything, but they've got a good plan, and they're improving their system all the time, from how they carry out operations to the aftercare, placing kids in good, safe environments, which has been a real struggle, I know. One thing they do in the United States, they don't do a lot of operations here because their main goal is to support the local police and federal government agencies. The one thing they've been doing that's pretty amazing is they're training dogs to sniff out electronic devices. So a lot of times these sex rings are linked to pornography, child pornography creation, and these people know that a raid could happen at any time from any number of law enforcement agencies, and so they'll put things on little discs or SD cards or what have you and hide them in the walls, in the carpet, whatever, and they've trained these dogs to find it. And so the O.U.R has been training these dogs and donating them around the country, and that's been pretty awesome. They've had good success finding this material and saving the kids who've been victimized through the production thereof, and then of course going after the consumers. So I love Operation Underground Railroad. They're not perfect, but they do good work, and they've got my support.
Pick up the pieces, can't I didn't mean it, please, I didn't mean it, make it better again, hold me together, we put me back together, gather all my parts, make me better, someone's arms again. Will I ever feel like it's not destined to end? Cracked, pick up the pieces, can't, I didn't mean it, please, I didn't mean it, make it better again, hold me together, and me.
really appreciate the commentary on YouTube. People with tons of experience pipe up, and sometimes the suggestions are really useful from different aspects of what we're doing here. One guy whose name I can't remember, but I think he signed his thing as an old farmer from Canada. so if you know who you are, he suggested using gaffer's tape to hold the project together. Doesn't leave residue. It's really strong, and I thought that was brilliant. So you'll see me wrap the outside with this big thick black gaffer's tape, and you know what? Worked out great. This thing held together like a champ. Notice in the description of the video a whole list of things I use for the majority of my projects. There's also a general link there that gets you into Amazon. If you use that link to do shopping for those products or just for anything, 5% of your purchases goes to Operation Underground Railroad. So grab that link and use it, put it on your computer, and that would help raise money. There's also Amazon does something, it's called Amazon Smile. Anytime you make a purchase, part of the purchase goes to the charity of your choice as well. The deal with my link is it earns 10 times more than Amazon Smile. So if your goal is to raise money for Operation Underground Railroad, that's a good link to use for your regular Amazon shopping.